Well, the governor has done exactly what we want people to do in public office. You identified a problem, you were transparent about it, you've corrected it. What more could we possibly, we hear all the time, people want more accountability in politics. They want more transparency from their leaders. That's what's happened here. And to this day, no Republican can come forward and tell me what race, what governorship, House, Senate, what outcome was affected by illegal voting in America. There isn't one example of any outcome ever being affected. So I don't know what they're talking about, that we need to write federal laws now and re-change how we do elections in America, because there was an honest mistake that was identified, corrected, and shared with the American people.
I mean, Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen had warned New Jersey and 3 other states, as you know, just last week about potentially thousands of non-citizens on their voter rolls. This problem in New Jersey, they're going to say, was not going to be found out, but for him saying that, I wonder about that. But, Karine, the White House said in a statement, quote, as President Trump has said, there is nothing more important than the integrity of our elections, and this latest incident underscores the absolute necessity of the Save America Act. Republicans, though, say the act is not going to pass in Congress. So why keep up a futile fight if, as Kurt is talking about, the issue was not whether there'd ever been people on the rolls or ever been somebody who had engaged in voting when they should not have, but that it did not change an outcome of an election?
Look, I think this is a fixation for the president, and maybe the White House is misconstruing polling. He is, with the Save America Act, it would be about not only voter ID, but also proof of citizenship. And look, voter ID is actually a really popular issue, and I think it makes a lot of sense for states if they want to pass voter ID. I think it would increase trust in elections. And so it's good to see state leaders being transparent about what's going on, especially when mistakes are made. But the president, I think, is making a mistake by taking one instance and assuming that this is going to be the fire that the Save America Act needs. And if anything, the Save America Act is actually complicating his efforts to pass other efforts to pass other, whether that be defense spending, issues in the Senate. So I think it's becoming sort of an albatross for Republicans.
Well, you know, the operative word states, because they're the ones who run their elections. If states want to do so, states have the option to do so. The president, Josh, he took a pretty strikingly different tone today when talking about the allegations that he made just last week that China tried to influence our elections. Listen.
Mr. President, are you planning on putting any pressure or consequences on China for what you announced about them meddling in the 2020 election?
Well, we're going to talk to them about it. It took place a long time ago. I think China is maybe a little bit different today than it was then. But look, they do things and we do things to them. I'll be honest. We do things to them, too. It's not a one-way street. But we'll be talking to them.
What?
Yeah. I mean, in classic form, Trump undermined his already tenuous credibility on this issue by laundering some old intelligence that did not actually support his accusation that China was interfering in the 2020 election. Now, what's crazy about that is that China actually did interfere in the 2020 election in favor of Trump, as documented by me at the time in my book. Check it out. But that's neither here nor there. He managed to find the one thing China is actually not guilty of and accuse them of that, which is really hard to do in the U.S.-China game. And so, Trump can pound the table about election integrity, but when he's using primetime addresses to launder tenuous information that undermines his own credibility, it just hurts his argument, and I don't think 400 votes out of 7 million in New Jersey is going to move the needle on this one way or the other at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, and this is why the reason why we have an election integrity issue in America is because one of the 2 major political parties in America has made the conscious decision to go, you know what, I don't like the result. I don't like that we lost. So we're going to invent a reason why and manufacture a problem that isn't a problem and then spend the next 6 years talking about it ad nauseum. So that's why some people in this country are questioning whether we have election integrity issues. But the real data tells us we don't have an election integrity issue in this. The 2020 election is the most litigated election in American history. There were recounts. There were 60 lawsuits. Donald Trump lost every single one of them, coast to coast, in Georgia, you name it. He lost them. We don't have election integrity. We have a problem with one political party lying to the American people day in and day out about it.
Somehow Olive Garden has come into this conversation. You would think I'm crazy, but Olive Garden is part of this now. Republicans are singling out Olive Garden as part of their push for what we talked about, voter ID, and pointed to this post from Olive Garden about the never-ending pasta pass. I can't make this up, people, okay? The restaurant says, quote, pass holders must present a valid photo ID along with the pass at the time of ordering. Obviously, this is catnip for Capitol Hill because, first of all, those breadsticks and the onion salad's delicious. I'm just putting it out there. But the Republicans have a point in terms of voter ID as a popularity issue. If others are pointing out a need for voter ID, photo ID, is this the right argument that they should be making now?
I mean, if you need a voter ID for anything from breadsticks to participating in different sports leagues to all types of, I mean, everyone has to pull out their ID for all types of activities in day-to-day life, then I think it's fair, one of the privileges of being a citizen in this country is getting to vote. And so I think it is perfectly fair to bring up wanting voter ID in elections. It's not just about, to your point, elections being secure, which we know broadly that they are. They're obviously anomalies, but it's people feeling that they're secure. And I think that voter ID is a way to do that and also undercut some of the president's more bombastic rhetoric about it if states take that on themselves.
Lest you think I have pulled this out of nowhere. Listen what happened to Capitol Hill.
Nowadays, if you want to go to Olive Garden and get unlimited pasta, you got to show a picture ID. This isn't complicated stuff.
It's so ridiculous that we have the Olive Garden require ID for the all-you-can-eat pasta bowl, but we allow people to vote without showing who they are.
Madam Chair, we're protecting our breadsticks more than our ballots in jurisdictions across this country.
But do you need citizenship to eat breadsticks? That's the question.
I just want to know what triggered that. Like, who went to the never-ending pasta bar so many times and messed it up for everyone? But go ahead.
I mean, the analogy is so ridiculous because it forces you to ignore the fact that the SAVE Act also has a number of provisions that would make registering to vote much more difficult, which would disproportionately hurt rural voters, poor voters, voters of color, and
women who did not change
people who are
names,
disabled,
right? Did change their names in marriage.
Women, so they can point to the breadsticks, but if you really want to talk about the rights of Americans to have a voice in our democracy, then the SAVE Act is about much more than that. And I think anyone should be able to eat at Olive Garden, ID or not. That's my stance, and I'm sticking to it. Come at me.
When you're here, you're family.
Yes, they should. Hospitaliano.
All right, hold on a second. We've got some more projections out of Arizona. Alexander Collin has won the Republican primary for Arizona's Secretary of State. Now, this is notable because he is one of the people who tried to overturn the 2020 election in the state. Okay, look, this is now 58% of the vote. What's your reaction? The fact that he's the one who won.
Concerned about voter integrity, election fraud, and results when they elect a election denier to preside over elections going forward. I mean, again, this is the thing. Republicans, everything that they have done since 2020, every law that they have passed, every initiative they have spearheaded, election integrity units, it's all designed to restrict the amount of voting and participation in this country. Donald Trump's gotten to the point where he has convinced the Republican Party that voting by mail is suspect, which is, by the way, I'm old enough to remember as a former Republican when that's the reason why we won elections, was because we had such an advantage in the get out the vote with mail-in voting. Who needs those people? Old people, rural voters. You know who a lot of those people are? Republicans. They're literally hurting themselves.
And the military.
Can we talk about how funny it is that Donald Trump seems to, I mean, he's struggling in a lot of areas right now. He has low approval, but he thinks that the answer is to remind us about 2020. There are a lot of reasons that people are not nostalgic for that, for that moment in time. So, if the president wants an issue, I don't think that this is the one.
I just want to point out that every single time that a Democrat has brought up January 6th since January 6th, the Republican response has been, you need to move on. The country's ready to move on. Why are you still talking about that? Yet here's the president using prime time on broadcast and cable news to talk about what? The 2020 election.